Welcome back to another lesson. In this lesson, we are looking at the tips that you need for the writing task 1 general training. You know by now that you're supposed to write a letter, which may be formal, semi-formal, or informal. What you have to do to get a good score is what we are considering in this particular lesson. First of all, you need to read and understand the question you have before you. While reading, you need to be able to identify what type of letter you have to write. Then you move on to plan your work on a part of your answer sheet. You have identified that you need to write, for example, a semi-formal letter. I need a salutation, I need the opening, I need the body, the conclusion, the subscription. What kind do you have to include in the letter that I have to write? In planning your work also, you want to know how to put some of the ideas together to form the paragraphs of the body especially. Remember the instructions we looked at in the previous lessons. You're to write a minimum of 150 words in 20 minutes. You don't need an address. You begin with a salutation. The question has some bulleted points for you to include in the letter. You need to remember this and do as the instructions say. You need to consider the language as well. There should be a difference between the language you use in a formal letter and the one you use in an informal one. For example, when it comes to words and expressions, in the formal letter, you wouldn't want to use words that would seem as if you're talking to a friend or to a colleague. There should be some respect in there. You're not using idioms, you're not using contractions, you're not using informal language when you're writing the formal letter. And the opposite, of course, can be done when you're writing an informal letter. If it's a semi-formal letter, then you want to be in between. You want to sound polite because you're talking to, for example, your boss or to your grandmother who is older than you. You check your spelling. The spelling could be in British or American, it doesn't matter. It should only be the correct spelling of the word. You're paying attention to your use of punctuation marks such as full stop, question marks, commas, and all of that. For paragraphing, you may do the indented. The beginning of the paragraph is moved away from the margin or from the beginning of the paper. If it's not the indented, then you do leave the line where there's a line that separates the paragraphs. Whichever one you opt for, that should be a personal preference. You write legibly, bold, clearly for the examiner to read what you have. If the examiner is not able to identify or read a particular word, they do not count it as part of the 150 that you have, and that could cost you so much. And so you want to write very clearly, especially if you opt for the paper-based test. If it's the CDIELTS, then of course you can type, and so there isn't any problem with that. You should be able to read over your work before the 20 minutes elapses. Planning your work, writing, and proofreading, everything should be done in the 20 minutes. And it's important for you to read over your work because as you write, the brain is moving faster than the hand. And so definitely there will be some mistakes in there you need to correct. You do those corrections and you save yourself some scores. But if you don't do that and the examiner identifies them, then of course you're losing some scores over them. If you use a pencil in writing, you can just erase and do the correct thing, or if it's a pen, you can cancel and do the right thing. You need to keep practicing. It isn't enough for you to go through these lessons. You have to practice. You need to take questions, sample questions, and answer them to tell whether you have really understood you've really understood the lesson or not. And on the day of the test, you need to be composed, you need to, relax. You can do this. Of course, after going through these and practicing, it shouldn't be difficult for you to get a very good letter down. So there's no point in being anxious. Just focus on what you have to do and do exactly that. Going back to reading over your work, you need to do the corrections if it's a spelling mistake or a grammatical error, you need to be able to do all of these corrections so that you get a very good score for your writing test one. All the best as you practice, and of course you can get in touch whenever you have any difficulties. Enjoy the rest of the lessons.